Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Mother, starring Jennifer Lawrence, Javier Bardem, Ed Harris, and Michelle Pfeiffer, directed by Darren Aronofsky. Now, before I get into this, did I overreact when I saw this in theaters back in 2017? Well, that's what I'm here to discuss with you. And before I get into this review, one more thing. I, there was no character names for this movie, so I had to come up with their names as their acting names. So, let's just get into this movie. We open with the fire sequence, and writer Javier Bardem put the diamond down, and things go to the way they are as Javier's wife Jennifer Lawrence wakes up and looks for Javier as she's not around in the house until Javier shows up and says he needed to clear his head, which is why he didn't wake Jennifer up. And he takes a shower because of his stink, and she paints the house a plain old white paint, as it looked like she was baking for a second, which looked rather weird to me as they greet each other in the kitchen and have something to eat, and we suddenly move on to nighttime where Javier is writing while Jennifer is looking right at him until the doorbell rings, and we get introduced to Dr. Ed Harris as he's a orthopedic surgeon and stays over at the house. And why in the fuck would you have a complete stranger in the house as they don't know him? And the script is starting off rather problematic to begin with, as it will be problematic until the credits roll at the end of the movie, as makes some dreadful choices throughout, as this dialogue is cringeworthy in my opinion. Javier gets to know Ed while Jennifer makes some tea and serves it to them, and I agree with Jennifer that he should leave and they don't fucking know him, while she says there's no smoking in the house, while Ed puts out a cigar, and Jennifer makes up some space for Ed, and she finds Ed and Javier looking around the place because Javier is giving Ed the tour of the house while Ed coughs like he might be sick or something. Like, that may be he swallowed something wrong and he pukes in the toilet, and she hides something from the both of them. And the editing choices were just so fucking terrible, as I felt the 2 hour length as it felt like a slog, as this was painful to get through. I've seen this movie 3 times, once in theaters and twice for this review, and I can't believe this is a Darren Aronofsky film after this and Noah, and what was he thinking, as he really needs to stop making fucking biblical movies for his sakes. Next morning comes, and Ed's wife Michelle Pfeiffer stays with them in the house as she burns her hand, as does Jennifer, and they heal Michelle as she talks about their 2 kids, Brian and Domhnall, and they get to know each other, and Michelle is invited by Javier to stay in the house behind Jennifer's back, as the acting is horrible, and these characters have no names whatsoever, which is why I keep calling them by the actors' names. And Michelle asks Jennifer at one point to take her on a tour, and what's keeping her and Javier from having kids is, cringy dialogue. Like, that's the kind of thing that you do not ask people about, as it's nobody's motherfucking business. And thank Christ she says she's not comfortable talking about it, while Michelle wants to go back to Javier's writing room, and Jennifer says that's not allowed, and she'll come in there later in the movie. And why did director Darren Aronofsky do this movie after Noah? As this movie makes me so angry, as I'm only 30 minutes into it, and the cinematography is just so goddamn ugly, as this is an ugly looking movie. Jennifer looks around and fixes the plunging, and we see with Jennifer, Michelle has a photograph of Javier while Michelle walks into Javier's writing room, as Javier and Ed make it back, and Ed is coughing down again, and he really should stop fucking smoking because this motherfucker will die from it. And Jennifer tells Javier Ed and Michelle have photographs of Javier in their luggage, and they enter Javier's writing room and once again break something, and Javier gets pissed off about it, and they apologize to Jennifer for it, and she tells them to leave, and I absolutely agree with her. They should just fucking leave the goddamn place because they're intruding a restricted area while Jennifer sees Ed and Michelle making themselves a home, which is completely fucked up. after how they destroyed a part of Javier's property. And this movie seriously makes some bad choices throughout. Javier builds a way to block anybody from coming into his writing office ever again, as she tries to talk Ed and Michelle out of the house as Brian and Domhnall come barging in the house while Jennifer is watching them argue. And where the fuck is Javier until he comes out and meets Brian and Domhnall? And Javier calls Domhnall down until Brian continues to fight Domhnall. And why the fuck would you let this happen in the first place? And Brian is killed by Domhnall. And Ed comes in and throws Domhnall out of the house, and he leaves. And Domhnall belongs to the mental hospital as they call Ed and take Brian to the hospital. And this movie just seriously, just so weird in every level, until nighttime comes and Jennifer waits for the bath so she can take one, as she suddenly sees red clouds like she's expecting a baby sometime soon. While she sees blood on the floor and walks around the basement and turns in on the light as it splatters with blood, which is so goddamn random in so many levels. And she sees a frog, and this movie is just so bad that I can't stand it. But I can't pull off another Screamers again. I just can't do it. It's not as bad as that piece of shit film, but it's getting close to it. Jennifer looks around and sees Domhnall behind her, and he grabs Brian's wallet and officially leaves the house as Javier gets home from the hospital covered in blood, and Javier decides to take a cold shower while Jennifer looks at the blood on the floor and covers it up, and she sleeps with him for the night, and she hears Ed and Michelle with others coming inside the house as Javier welcomes them in behind Jennifer's back, which makes me call for a divorce right off the bat. And they have a funeral for Brian. And where the hell is this movie going is beyond me, as it makes some questionable choices, like the dialogue to the turn of events happening throughout the movie as Ed and Michelle's family come to the house and frightens the hell out of Jennifer. And Ed and Michelle makes a speech about Brian as Ed cries and asks Jennifer to say something nice about Brian. And more people keep showing up right out of the blue. And if it were me, I can't accept this many people in my place, because I don't have any space. I can't make space to them. Remember, this is a piece of shit movie. Michelle comes up to Jennifer asking where she went on and to put on something decent, which is another cringeworthy dialogue while people are destroying property to property while Jennifer taking some drugs and her drink, as Jennifer comes off so damn demanding as one of the people in the house paints the house and causes property damage, and it gets to a point where Jennifer wants everybody the fuck out of the house, while a man hits on Jennifer as he doesn't know the man and asks a couple to get off their counter and causes more property damage. And Jennifer is fed up to a point she has no choice but to kick everyone out of the house, and it becomes a big mess in the living room as Jennifer and Javier have an argument about how he can't write worth a shit and he can't fuck her worth a shit, until he gets aggressive towards her by smooching her and putting up a baby inside her. As we move on to the next morning and Jennifer feels relieved as she's pregnant. And should I give a shit about any of this? Absolutely fucking not. Javier thinks of something to write as a book and says he loves Jennifer, and she gets rid of the drugs and she's drinking and makes a crate for the baby while she covers up the blood stain on the floor, while Javier continuously works and their baby moves in her stomach while Javier finishes the book. And I thought, already? Because I'm no expert, but it takes a long time to write a book and come up with a story. And I don't know how he came up with it in hours. And Jennifer tears up about the baby coming very soon, and the phone rings and hears from his publisher, Kristen Wiig. And why is she in this movie? As she feels like a miscast to a Darren Aronofsky movie, as I can't take her seriously in any movie, even in her dramatic roles, nor in Wonder Woman 84, which was just a bad movie, as this movie is. As Jennifer shows up and combs her hair and dresses up, and she hears something coming to the house as she and Javier dress up for a nice romantic dinner, until it gets ruined by people coming to her house, which are the characters in Javier's book, and they're here to celebrate Javier, which is a bad choice to let them in the house to begin with. The blood on the carpet rises, and as does the floor that does cover it up. And like I said, Javier comes up with a questionable choice of letting people inside the house, while Jennifer wants to be alone with him. As a mother and son comes in, and a lady with her son needed to take a leak. Well, Jennifer learns the poet says everyone lives in their house. And this is what I'm thinking. I'm really detesting this movie to death. Like, I'm checking out of it, as this is Darren Aronofsky's worst movie yet to date, as I can't stand this movie. While she was making a call to the police as people are saying share the property, and Jennifer gets really frustrated with what is happening at this point, and I do too. And I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ, let this movie end, for Christ's sakes. A shit ton of people come into the house and start making loud music and taking things, including the baby crib, and making so much property damage as it gets crazier and crazier as time goes on. And Jennifer is about to go into labor, while cops come in and pepper spray Javier and Jennifer while giving labor, and a gun suddenly gets fired as shit gets crazier. And Jennifer gives birth to her baby in a private area with Javier, while Jennifer is constantly screaming, as it was really getting on my last fucking nerve. And the baby is born, and this is when the biblical shot starts to happen. Or shit, excuse me. Javier shows the kid like he's a god, and this is getting absolutely pointless, except for this is supposed to be a crazy biblical movie that doesn't work. Jennifer asks Javier to make people leave, as he doesn't want them to leave, and he asks to hold the baby, and she refuses until he grabs the baby while she's asleep. And like I said, Javier shows the baby like it's a god, and people start grabbing the baby and ripping the baby apart, which felt too melodramatic. And this is a movie that doesn't play it safe. While Priest says the baby isn't dead, as it's fucking dead. And people eat the baby like a pack of motherfucking cannibals. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, what the fuck is this movie want to be at this point? As it feels like a fucking mess. And the people beat up on Jennifer like she's a witch. And it's all Javier's fault, as this motherfucker should have let these people out of there in the first place. And Javier says they need to forgive them. But Jennifer doesn't, and I don't blame her for that, because she's pissed about they killed her baby in the first place. With Javier and she burns everything happening at this point, as well as the house, until we get back to the start of the movie, and it ends there. And this climax really pissed me off. And how pissed was I with this movie? Let's talk about it. I'll give this movie a 1.3 out of 10. The script comes off very problematic from the start all the way to the finish, while it makes some dreadful choices throughout, as the dialogue is cringeworthy, while the editing choices are just fucking terrible. And I felt the 2-hour length, as it's so painful to get through, and I almost turned this damn thing off, as this is almost a Screamer's worse. As I feel the most pain watching this movie twice for this review, as it's so fucking bad. What was Darren Aronofsky thinking of making a biblical movie after this? And Noah, please, Darren, for the love of God, don't make any more biblical movies. And the acting in this is horrible, as these characters have no names whatsoever, which is why I called them by the actors' names. And I don't like their roles throughout, as the cinematography was so ugly, as this is an ugly looking movie. And this movie made me so very angry, as I was reluctant to go to see Aronofsky's next work until I heard good things about this next film, The Whale, which I'll talk about next time. But as for this movie, it's a strong non-recommendation for this movie, because this movie makes seriously some bad choices throughout, and this is just a fucked up movie I personally never want to watch ever again, as this movie is seriously just weird in every level. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me, and next time I will be back with The Whale. And until then, alright, let's get over this nightmare.